Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sustainability Innovation Lecture Series being put on in part tonight by the Center for Sustainable Future here at IU South Bend. My name is Krista Bailey. I'm the director, and it's my pleasure to see you out on this brisk and lovely winter evening. So thank you for getting here safely. I'm really excited you did. We have some fabulous speakers to share with you, some innovative, sustainable practices that have been taking roots in the community for a number of years and really flourishing now. So I'm excited to hear their story. I haven't heard an updated version in a while, so it's going to be great. But before we get to them, I do want to thank our tech help, Hassan. He's awesome. He knows everything. Thank you, Hassan. Also thank other people that are helping to make this lecture series possible. They include A5, which is a digital marketing and branding firm out of Chicago. And if you missed their co-founder a couple weeks ago, we should have that video live soon. It was very entertaining. Innovative Solar, solar installation company based here in South Bend, is also helping to support this series, and as well as NIPSCO and 88.1 WBPE has been giving us some promotion help. So we thank our sponsors for making this all happen tonight. So before I introduce our speakers, I recognize many of you, but you all probably don't recognize everybody in the room. So let's take a few minutes to find someone you don't know, introduce yourself, what brought you to this talk tonight, what you're excited to hear about, something unique about yourself, make a connection, and then we'll connect with others.
Similar to your I haven't quite decided where I might have one on the board. Yeah. No, I'm recording. Here's my new podcast. Yeah.
She is going to use
It's just to have nothing.
Well, because you've got to recoup a little bit. So this time we get over there, I bet it is. Probably is one little very simple. No, I look forward to it.
Okay, perfect conversation. So the Center for Sustainable Future really works to bring campus and community together to promote innovative and exciting and engaging ways to promote sustainability. So I'm really happy to have Greenbridge Growers present. We have Jan Pilarski and Chris Titmarsh, who founded this organization. And I think I first heard about even this idea not that long ago. And Jan and I were at some dinner somewhere like 6 years ago. She said, I was thinking I might want to do this kind of different thing. And I said, that sounds great. I'm not really sure how to start. But she kept talking to people, and boy, she got things started by continuing to put this idea out there that was a little bit different sounding than any other greenhouse operation I've heard of. And we've been talking ever since, and she just keeps moving things along. They both do. So I will let them take it away. So they have a lot of beautiful pictures and a great story to share. So please help me welcome Jan and Chris.
Thanks, Krista. It's also really wonderful to be back here at IUSB, which has welcomed us from the very beginning through classes and interns and all the connections Mike and Krista both have shared with us. So we're really grateful, and it feels like we're coming home to people who are very interested in our work and whom we'd like to share our ideas and our venture and how we're continuing to connect to the community. As Krista shared, Chris and I are the co-founders of Greenbridge Growers. We actually really officially started 3 years ago. That was when we launched. And the idea behind our venture is to create a venture which would grow fresh local food for our area using year-round and innovative methods like aquaponics, while also creating jobs for young adults on the autism spectrum, like Chris and others in the community who are very under-resourced. We called our talk today, you might kind of say, fishy business, triple bottom line. Well, it's just to kind of get everyone saying, oh, I want to know about that. So we're not necessarily shady or underhanded with the fishy side. It's that aquaponics and the growing of fish is an integral part of our business. And the triple bottom line is a way to describe a business that is not just concerned with doing well and earning income, but also in having a clear social mission and social purpose, and also working sustainably in the community. So we wear those different hats, and but sustainability for us is woven through and through what we do: environmental sustainability, community sustainability, It's really the core of who we are. So to show a kind of a demonstration of our model or the way that these different spheres come together, when we show the triple bottom line part of our business, it has these nice Venn diagrams to show that the way we word this, our business model, is utilizing the skills of young autistic adults so that we're building a profitable business that grows fresh local food for our region. So if we were a different sort of business, we might preface what we're doing, with we're out there to market or to sell, but all of them weave together in that what we're putting out front is that there's a social purpose, that we see farming has a great way to engage people who have been on the margins and to bring them into the center of the community. Like how everything kind of converges in the community, and what we're doing is doing that with sustainable practices that earn income for those who are involved. So that's kind of the nexus and the core of how we work. You might kind of say, if you saw our bios, how did we get here? I think that's always kind of an interesting part about people who find themselves in the space of sustainability. Sometimes people come to it because from the time they were 5 years old, they started recycling, or they studied it in school, and so it was just a natural path. I'd like us to kind of begin with Chris's story and weave in my own, because I think that shows in many ways the way that Greenbridge Growers really had its impetus, and looking at it from the side of people first. So just wanted to share, our family story, being very rooted in this community, and wishing to help young people like Chris launch. And Chris wanted to share some things about his connections to the community and how, in different ways, that led to Greenbridge Growers.
I was born near Washington, D.C., but I've lived most of my life here in South Bend. I went to school here. I went to McKinley, Edison, and Adams, and I was I had enough support to be included in regular classrooms and clubs, and I enjoyed school, and I went on to attend Hope College, which is in Holland, Michigan, and
Proud graduate.
I studied chemistry and environmental studies, and in one of my environmental studies classes, I did research on photovoltaics. I'm interested in renewable energy, and I've also done several organic farming internships since I graduated, I'm looking for a way to apply science through my work. I had one job working in an office after I graduated, which was part of the social challenges, and I was unable to stay at that job.
So along with Chris, so many young people like themselves who are from this community and have both the gifts and the challenges of autism, find themselves really unable to latch on in the traditional workplace, or in Chris's case, in a situation where with some tweaking it would have worked, but that really wasn't going to be. So Chris found himself back in South Bend, and it was a painful time for everyone, and we really tried to realize, though, and to think about, this isn't just Chris. We're feeling this ourselves, this loss of work or a really difficulty with the workplace, but it helped us dig our heels in and do some research, and we saw his peers from the South Bend schools who had been equally supported and well-trained through the staff who worked with him for so many years. And all of them were unemployed. And then nationwide, what we learned is that the statistic is that those with autism face 90% unemployment. And that really galvanized us, it galvanized me. I'm a social justice advocate. My colleague and dear friend Bob is here from my past life at St. Mary's. And part of who I am is someone who looks at injustice and tries to find ways to change a situation. So that got me thinking, well, things are going too quickly here. Yes, it was time for action. I didn't really feel that, given that there were so many in the community who had these abilities and wished to contribute, that just to say, well, this didn't work, or I don't know what to do was the response. I did feel that we have to turn the problem, the social problem, a problem really of sustainability of these young adults within the community, of the investment of resources the community has placed in their lives, and put that to work. And I was beginning to hear about other entrepreneurial businesses in different parts of the country and actually around the world that were looking at using the many skills that people with autism had in a variety of settings given their interests, and creating a workplace that was inclusive and put those skills to great use. So that began a process of reflection and Krista knowing that there was some bubbling ideas and really trying to discern and look at possibilities. For some of these businesses, the way that they've sustained these young people has been through skills like software testing or IT. In Chris's case, as he mentioned, his interest and his passion is environmental studies, applied science, and he likes pests and soil science and taking pH of the soil. And I'm like, this is a guy who really wants to be hands-on. You've done your farming, it matters to you, and so how can we build something that really puts those skills to work and benefits the community? Those were the things we were really trying to gather. So here's my little attempt at some comedy here. So what did we do? I love Calvin and Hobbes. And there's that nice interplay between the two of them. I don't see a path. I didn't want to be stuck there behind, Calvin. And Calvin says, oh, there's a path over there. So I would say, that's really how we try to approach things. Not blindly making a way, but saying, well, there's got to be a path. Let's stop, think outside the box, and look at something that would be viable and workable, although not necessarily the path that most take. And so putting together Chris's interest in science and farming and some background of my own, having grown up in a farm family and run community gardens, we kind of said, what are the models out there? How can we do something that would create added value for the community, add to the supply of fresh food, and put people to work? So that was all that was kind of part of our process of putting the pieces together, putting that puzzle together. And so I think one of the things I would say is that although not everyone might want to go that way and say, we'll make that path, just the challenges even in your own lives or in this community, are there ways that each of us can be more entrepreneurial and look for a different way, maybe a slightly different way in terms of enacting this interest in sustainability or any problem that we see. What can we take from entrepreneurship that, that can benefit us and benefit the community, although you don't go off that cliff. So that's a little preface to why we made that path, why we saw that there was potential and that we wanted to take the risk of launching Greenbridge Growers. And I wanted to, here some have seen this, the other half haven't, so we'll dive in and share this short little video. It focuses on Chris. It was done by Explore Media, which is a wonderful company that's new to South Bend in the East Race. And they saw in Chris that he was an artisan with the gardening that he does. And so this little clip shows the whole love and the healing and the nurturing that he brings to taking care of the plants that he's growing in our first greenhouse here. Full systems, maybe? Is it loading?
See the name.
Enable there at the bottom. Okay. Thank you.
The upper right corner.
Upper right.
It's not, a little below that, the gray stuff, the gray.
Gray rectangle.
Where it says upload.
Where it says upload. Oh, right there. Do the search. Krista will send you the link in case you haven't seen it yet. That's fine. But one of the things that I think they saw in Chris, even though this can't be shown, is just the whole sense of the tactileness of the growing, being able to touch the seeds, put the fish feed in. I see some of you are finding it on your phones. Just that whole connection to work, to making a difference, and to bringing life into the community. So that's one of the things that I think that shows very nicely. And so to really pivot from there, I would say that in thinking about Greenbridge Growers, this quote really hits me, because I think about the whole sense of social enterprise being about, first of all, seeing a social problem or a concern in the world, as this points out, and then really doing all you can to combat that problem through the economic development, through social development, and really not letting it rest until you have that problem kind of at least underway. And I think it's that sense of changing the pattern, disrupting, and moving forward in a different direction because of looking a little bit out of the box, looking for new possibilities. So that's kind of our core. So how did we build in the first place? How did we start our growth as a business? Mike is sitting right across from me, so I can really attribute to him the whole idea of jumping ahead, of the whole prospect of hey, you know, you've got to start somewhere. You have a vision that's big, but it's that whole sense of, you know, in starting up, you need to demonstrate, you need to pilot, you need to start small so that you're showing the viability. You're working both on the social mission and training and involving people and seeing, does this make sense? Validate it, but you're also working on your growing procedures, the blend of fish and plants together. So this greenhouse where we had our start and still maintain is about 360 square feet, and it's on the grounds of Hannah and Friends. And you can see some of the components on the slide, some of the basil and the grow beds and the seeds and the fish. So it is a very tactile experience like that video shows, but it's all worked together in a harmony, which we also think really reflects our sense of social entrepreneurship and the connection to the social mission, the connection to sustainability, and then the work to establish ourselves as a business. And kind of at the core of that, that arrangement, that system is our growing method, which is aquaponics. And with Chris's background in science, I asked him to put it all together for us, and Professor Chris. And tell us what all these charts and arrows mean.
Okay, let's see. So to start off with aquaponics, the closed loop system, it recycles the water. Let's see, the waste from the fish, which is ammonia, gets taken up to the plants where the plant and along the way it's converted from ammonia to nitrites to nitrates, which is the form that the plants can use. And then the plants are able to soak up the nitrogen that way, and then the water for the fish, and then it gets recycled back into the fish tank. This allows us to grow year-round in a greenhouse setting.
And then there are the benefits at the bottom as well, which we wanted to highlight. No, it's these arrows here that really are some of the ways that we see as some of the sustainable aspects of aquaponics, that because it's a closed loop, the water recirculates, and especially in conditions where there are drought or a concern about water, the 90% less water is of great benefit to aquaponic growing. Because we're in a greenhouse, we do the 4-season growth, and one of our principles too is that sense of how do we take waste and convert it to a resource. And as Chris explained, that nitrogen process, the nitrates are essentially the fertilizer for the plant. So it's a kind of a very elegant way of converting waste to product. Also at Hannah and Friends, it's an agency that serves people with disabilities north of town. And there are some people who reside there, some people who are part of a day program, and other people who are involved with them that are very interested in becoming part of our business. And so this shows some of the work that's done, some of the training that we've done as far as our 200-gallon fish tank there, releasing fish, the different ways, the different tasks that the system requires, like the pH and all the different nitrate testing that Chris does so precisely, and everyone else is doing some testing, learning how those tests are done, and then preparing some growing medium for planting. So just really trying to specify the different tasks, give different people roles so that they're all engaged in the greenhouse and the planting. There are also some very large gardens there that we've helped to facilitate and to grow the last few years too, just to extend everyone's knowledge base. So that's some of shows some work from last summer where we had a lot of volunteers and campers at Hannah and Friends who were harvesting and planting, and Chris and others engaged them also in choosing what to grow. This year there was an overabundance of beans, but and I really mean overabundance, but people chose that, and so they came home with their big bundles of beans, and that sense of accomplishment. Maybe this was the first time anyone had ever grown either inside the greenhouse or in the ground, but I'm taking this home, I can eat it, and that farm to table connection being so wonderful for everyone. Some of the other work that we do this past summer involved a training program. So we had 4 young people that were funded with a grant from Kelly Cares Foundation, so that we specifically kind of worked in such a fashion so that all the duties that are involved on a daily basis were very specified, and people worked side by side, and a lot of growth happened both in our plants and in just the whole sense of here are things that we can change, we can grow, we can accomplish in 6 weeks a lot of growth. So people love to see the plants and their processes and just taking great delight. I think Xavier here is harvesting for some tea, but the tactile sense of growing it and being able to harvest it for tea gives everyone a lot of joy. The next project that we enjoy very much, and is also very much an outgrowth of our collaboration with IUSB and the Center for Sustainable Future, is the downtown Skywalk garden. That's a before picture. And even before, it was a lot of very scrubby underwater house plants that were not tended and were very in need of care. And the vision was that this could be part of the greening of downtown, of creating a space and showing that, hey, we can turn a lot of different kinds of areas into productive growing space, and it could benefit a group like ours, and it could create some income and be a place of beauty for people. So these are some of the things we grow, so it's kind of like before, after.
Jan, where is that?
Well, it is, well, here are some more. I'm demonstrating here too. It's between the Doubletree Hotel and the South Bend Museum of Art, so right above St. Joseph Street. And here are more, I would call them before pictures, and we just had great crews of volunteers, fire department, a lot of IUSB students, Good Shepherd Montessori students, who came because we had to scoop out all the old and cart that all away, and then bring in fresh soil, fresh compost, and kind of recreate that whole area. So I think the hands-on process of all of that was something, was a transformation, and it was those partnerships that made it happen. It's that type of collaboration that I feel as a community-based business is just key to kind of who we are and our DNA. So this is all the work. It was very ongoing, and a lot of support for that. And just showing some other ways, how did this transform? This is I call this learning, growing, and exploring, because we have had different school groups in, and this was when we had just put in some soil, we were just planting some seeds, and the preschool group here spent a whole morning with us during our first Christmas growing. And again, it was that joy of the children. Here's a space they didn't even know existed, and now they can help make it green. They can help make it grow. So a lot of good lessons about seeds, about planting, all those things happen there. We also, I don't have a photo of this, but we've also brought in some art displays. We had a few, wouldn't call them contests really, but just themed exhibits where kids from local schools had a theme to work with, growth or spring, and we have had those up on display, and it really brightens the space and makes it something that's an asset for the whole community. And this is where we are now. We're engaging students. We've had a lot of service learning and bringing students here to see the space and learning about composting and soil and how to take plants from start to harvest. And here are some of the close-ups of the different herbs that we grow and the work that Chris has put into the greenhouse. Here's a little update on the Skywalk.
We've had the opportunity to grow for a year and a half at the downtown Skywalk, growing herbs and some greens like kale, and we change what we grow so that so that herbs that like heat like basil are in the beds in the summertime, and more cooler weather crops are in the space in the winter. And in the fall and winter, the crop that are doing really well are kale, cilantro, parsley, lemon balm, and mint. And we like doing our part to make the downtown greener. And we've also had art displays by some of the participants at Hannon Friends, which you mentioned a minute ago, the residents and for people with disabilities. And we're hoping to have some more of that kind of artwork there. We grow to make bath salts, teas, herb rubs, and for selling directly to customers, like at farmers markets.
That's kind of how that project has evolved. And lastly, where we are kind of in our growth is we always knew that we wanted to go from prototype and our pilot at Hannon Friends to expand and build commercial greenhouses that have a greater potential to produce and to employ and to benefit the community. So over the process of about a year, we did a land search and also sourced things like our equipment and fundraised and just took the time to really kind of get a base for what we needed for those two greenhouses. And so what we have here is our Mishawaka expansion site. It's from, I mentioned this to Krista, from IUSB, it's 10 minutes, door to door, which is really great for students or faculty who'd like to explore partnerships, internships, and do hands-on. It's very close to the fairgrounds, just minutes away. So we like that. We're just, on the perimeter of South Bend, so we're still close. And what we're doing here is building two greenhouses at the time. The one that's covered is our aquaponic greenhouse. It was finished, the exterior and the cover was put on in December. And so right now in that greenhouse, we have all the electrical going in, which is very exciting. There'll be an adjacent fish house to that greenhouse where we'll raise the fish, and the plumbing will send their waste into the aquaponic greenhouse to feed the plants that will grow there in vertical towers. The other structure is a high tunnel, which will be unheated for the winter, but also a way for us to grow crops year-round and market to people who really want that consistent delivery, consistent supply. And this is actually a 6-acre site, so there would be land in back of that to construct additional high tunnels and greenhouses. Right now, there's 2 acres that are field, and we'd like to keep it that way so that we can grow crops from the ground, from the soil. And that's also something that Chris has really put his interest in soil science to work. We were growing cover crops out there for the first year as a way to enrich and add more microbes to the soil. So just trying to be very thoughtful and sustainable in how we grow and produce. Because we're growing vertically, the amount that will grow in there, although this is a 2,200 square foot greenhouse, it'll be about twice that production because we're growing with vertical hanging towers. And we know from the research we've done that that there is so much need in the community for local food. So we're kind of scratching the surface of that. But along with the 90% problem of young adults with autism or unemployed, actually 90% of the food that we eat in Indiana is trucked in from out of state. So there's that growing demand for local food, and we hope that through our work and through what we grow, we can help to change the availability and the freshness of what's offered in the area. And the way we've been able to accomplish a lot of the work on our greenhouses has really been refreshing to us. We've had so many civic groups, we've had college groups, church groups come, engaged in all sorts of ways. We're masters of sort of thinking of the small and saying, on this weekend, what could a group accomplish? And we're so grateful to that help because each of these greenhouses probably requires about 300 hours of labor to build when you look at the excavation and putting in the poles and the boards and so forth. So these are the people who help get it done. And it's a great way for us to kind of share what we're doing, have them come out, engage with us as very much rooted in the community and inviting them to participate. So this is a group that just came out and really were the ones, you can see them putting the cover on. So that was like the coup de grace. That was such an exciting moment. And you can see we're all bundled up because you can do this work at 40 degrees. It was barely 40 that day in December when we put that on, but it was done, and so just kind of forging ahead to keep at this and be ready so that we can grow later in the spring. So that's the greenhouses, and just for a little peek at what we plan to grow in aquaponics. This is kind of largely what we would be growing in vertical towers, the herbs and the specialty greens, and producing our fish as a product. And then we also, in next fall, because we have a space for it, like a specialty crop like garlic in the backfield is one of the ways we'd like to use that crop. So those are some of the ways we're working to add value to the community. I would just like to touch and kind of do some weaving together of a few more ideas that really gird us and are core to who we are. I wanted to talk a bit more about how we do our work in terms of our social mission, how we do our work in terms of sustainability, and then end with a few kind of bigger picture ideas for food in this community. So we mentioned before that with our core workforce being young adults on the autism spectrum, it's not just looking at the type of business we are in a different way and being entrepreneurial instead of kind of seeing if the square pegs will take round holes. So it's flipping kind of the way that we're trying to employ people. But also, I'd say part of the social mission is changing perceptions about people with autism. So this I have always found to be very compelling because we're not just about agricultural innovation or sustainable practices that are noteworthy. It's about seeing the innovative ways of thinking that people with autism can bring to the job and sort of flipping the whole idea of how we think about people's abilities and their gifts. So some of the things that leap out at me also, along with innovation, is potential, seeing the world differently. And that's what we're trying to capture with our employees. I think not to see this as what prevents people from working, but seeing their very unique skills as assets. And actually, in many ways, I like to think of it as a competitive advantage because of the way that they approach their work. So it's a flip on how we think of our those who are the resources in terms of our employees. The other thing I like to share too, because this is really about farming and aquaponics as well, but I do think that there is great potential in the field of farming for people to use a variety of gifts that they may not have been able to use in other places. We hear about a lot of returning vets being encouraged to do farming, and say, why not people with autism or some other kinds of disabilities? Because the kind of skills that you see on the left are really what people bring to the job. It's that sense of detail, being very, very accurate at what they do, and then just looking at a problem and getting right to the center of things. And we see that as a terrific skill match for the kinds of activities that are involved with regular farming and also with aquaponic farming. So that, I think, is something that we want to continue to explore and nurture in our employees because we see that match. We know they can do the work. So on the job, we want to provide the best training possible for each employee so that their learning style is worked with to the best way possible. And here, this is one of our trainees, Matt, and we were doing just some interviews or some debriefings at one point after a section of our training and asking, please reflect on, your experience or what does it mean to you, and his whole being just was so full of pride to do this work and that whole sense that by doing this and having a purpose and having a meaning, it's really going beyond who I am, but showing the potential to others in the community and what people can really accomplish. So I think that for us was just one of the best days to hear that sense from him of, this is mattering to him and to others. And I know that that's something you think about too, and you had a few things to add maybe on that point. point?
I'm glad that we're creating chances for people to learn new skills and to help the community yeah, our work also shows that people with autism have a whole lot that they can do if they're given the chance. And also as we grow, we'll put more people to work, which will give out more people per greenhouse. And we really enjoy that we're doing work that adds to people's health and quality of life.
So that's from the kind of the social side of what we do and how we do that, really trying to emphasize training and empowerment and helping people grow as leaders on the job, as well as farmers. Looking at sustainability, we feel that it's really important. We've kind of throughout mentioned how it's vital to put your roots in the community and have partnerships. So these are some of the ones that we have really focused on. And I think that as a startup business, anyone who's really trying to launch should see the universities and colleges in their area as great partners. The agencies or any other affiliates in the community that have a special interest like yours, and for us it's Logan and Hannah and Friends. And then who else can help you build your business and expand the skills that you have in that regard. So just trying to dig deep and also see that as part of the social mission, that sense of putting down roots with others and sharing the network together. So what does this mean, sustainably? Again, we go back to another version of the triple bottom line, but this is spelled out maybe in a different way. It talks about earth share, fair share, and people care. And so that's the profitability, the economics, sustainability, and the social mission, really. Just another way of saying it. But what's around here, and this was something Chris found actually originally and really spoke to him, so we wanted to include it because it has pieces in there about using renewable energy, catching energy, using waste, designing from patterns to details and slow solutions. So that ethic of integration and including all of those aspects has been very important to us. Now, from here, I wanted to just raise some ways that I see food connecting to the local community, kind of giving it a bigger picture. These are people actually in our in-ground growing at Hannah and Friends, and one of them is an IUSB intern. But in looking at this, I would say, what are the challenges? I'd say we are what we eat. There's an awareness, a growing awareness of the importance of local fresh food to our health. So how do we increase that awareness among others in the community? How can we be more of a food hub? How can we help even institutions look at their purchasing of food and encourage the affiliation with local farmers, kind of really trying to break some of that open. People have been talking about that for years, but how about what our children eat in school, or what people in nursing homes have as their meals, or when they're in the hospital. Some movement towards that is happening here in this community in some ways, and in others as well, but it's something to break open and explore so that healthy access isn't just for a few, but it's for the whole community. The other is the whole issue of food miles, and that gets to some of the points about local eating, and it's certainly knowing your farmer and having having that connection, knowing who to trust, and knowing that you're supporting people in the local community. But, you know, are there ways that we can distribute our food in a more environmentally friendly way, in a more sustainable way, that also benefits the community? So a chart like this really shows the challenges, the problems of long-distance transport, which we're kind of locked into in some ways here in this state. So how can we go beyond that, create more of a local demand, a local market to kind of break through the problem of what I call the food miles. We want there to be no food miles, if possible, or to have food as close as possible. And then I think also with local growing, or with growing that's happening right in our midst, there really are benefits beyond the food miles and the healthfulness, because it's looking at you know, that if we are a community, can we see that we all have a stake in this? You know, part of it is preserving the environment, not monocropping, having a variety of products grown on a farm so that all the beneficial plants and insects remain. Or what can we do in how we grow so that we're capturing waste and doing it in a fashion so that we're not releasing methane into the air, and in so doing, we're doing our part to fight climate change. So there's a ripple and a connection among all of these issues that I think is something for us to reflect on and to challenge ourselves about. Then finally, I shared this with one of Mike's classes last year, and Mike pointed out, oh, it's much beyond that impact. It would, of course, depend on the size of the community, but it's just saying, like, if we are more conscious of our purchases and looking at this in as wide a lens as possible in terms of the sense of sustainability, wouldn't we want to help people who are our growers? Wouldn't we want to help people who are local businesses that are from this community sustain themselves? Because that's really adding value, and it's an exchange, and it's really saying we are a community that values each other. So, and one of the ways that that's done is, you know, economically. So I think that in what we do and what we grow, we can look at who we're supporting. We can support community groceries like the Purple Porch. We can support local growers that are there. We can be very conscious of our purchases in almost every area and bring that back to the community. So, and food is one of the ways, since we consume so much of it, that we can all think about that carefully. So to kind of bring it back together, say the way I'd like to kind of have you think about farming is through the eyes of Scott. This wasn't his quote, it was another's, but I think kind of the pride in how he's growing and taking care of the fish, which he's learned to do over about a year. That the goal of farming, yes, it is to raise crops. It's to grow crops, it's to profit from what you grow, both economically and socially, and with that sense of pride, but it's also cultivating human beings. And what value are we bringing to each other's lives through the farming and the growth that we do? So we see ourselves as kind of the nexus of both growing food and growing futures. Chris has the last word here.
So we're all grateful to the community for supporting our mission and their interest in making sustainability widespread, and your help gives us all a chance to grow and flourish. So thank you.
I'm just gonna pick up questions, and I'm sure people have questions. They had a lot of great information, and I'm gonna take a mic around because we do have someone streaming from afar, and we hope to hold on to these thoughts. So, great, you're on opposite sides of the room. She raised her hand.
Okay, that's right.
Hi, I was just curious about who your customers are, in wholesale, retail, and about your distribution.
Well, at this point, we're selling to a few of the downtown restaurants, but our real production will come when we build the 2 greenhouses here. At Hannah and Friends, the food goes to feed the residents that are there, and also for cooking classes, and to bring chefs in so that they can see our products. So that's another thing that we do. But we have worked with about 12 of the restaurants that are in the community. So once we're up and going, that would be kind of one of our first sources of market. So I do also expect that we would want to be to have a presence at the local markets as well, Purple Porch or South End Farmers Market, so that we would have a way to directly meet customers too, because that's just that part of the experience. So, do you have thoughts on that, or?
No, I was just curious as to how you get it all to the different places. And,
Yeah, we would deliver twice a week to the restaurants. That would be part of the plan, and we have a truck to do that now.
so you do make all the
We
deliveries?
would take that directly to the restaurants, yeah. And the towers that we use actually are nice because they transport, we can keep them erect, and then should the restaurateurs want to cut their own, they can do that right off of the tower. So that's kind of a nice feature.
I was wondering what kind of ground crop, soil conditioning crops you're growing now.
Well, we will be growing in our high tunnel and then in the field, the 2-acre field we have. So the high tunnel is still under construction, and we would expect to plant it in the spring. So we would have various greens, mustards, arugulas in there. We would also, like for the summer, probably have the hot weather cucumbers and eggplants. And then in the field, we would have a variety of root crops and lettuces. So that would be, and garlic in the fall. That's kind of our idea to diversify so that we have crop coming from a variety of places and a variety of different crops. But the aquaponic greenhouse would be, a very big producer for us of especially herbs and some of the lettuces, and particularly for year-round production. So I guess the answer is a little of everything. I guess I would also say too, because I think, it's important to engage. Are there things that you feel you'd like to see, or things, any kind of a special variety, or things that you maybe see missing or particularly enjoy?
I was really curious about, you seem to mention that the 2 acres in the back, you were actually using some soil conditioning techniques.
Oh,
and that's what I was curious
Oh,
about.
for that, yes. So we're using, it's not a crop that will be able to produce.
Right.
But it's actually a perennial rye, and you plant it in the fall, like in September. We planted, like about 150 pounds of it, and it's rather dense. So the effect of it is just that if you do that over time, then it'll increase the organic material in the soil, and the roots go down so deep and really extend a lot of benefit, microbial benefit to the soil. So that's what we would probably do that every year because it's so helpful. Yeah. Yeah.
So, give me an idea of other things that might be able to grow. Have you thought about growing hops for a little brewery?
Guess the book I took out of the library the other day, they had it. No, I have followed hops, and I think it would be a very interesting crop. It seems like there's a lot of demand for it from the local breweries. So. That it has not escaped me. Thank you. It's just the little push that we might need. Greenbridge Brew.
Yeah.
Greenbridge Brewers, is that what you said?
This might be my question now. A little bit fast. Also a father of some. So, when you talk about really it's home, especially the social integration aspect of it. But we already started to see it where high functioning. So a lot of people just see him as a normal kid until you see the other behaviors and such like that. But how did you train? I guess this has been Chris. As to how did you go through school in with a high science background and then help to transition into this?
Let's see. Judging about my science background, or sorry, could you say that again?
Well, yeah, it's just how you integrated this from your science background.
Oh, okay. Well, I took chemistry in high school, and I continued with it in college. I had a chemistry minor, but I also added an environmental studies minor, and so I have experience in both areas. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Do you have, I guess, with the programs for the youth, I try to get the more scientific integration into his schooling, more into the technical aspect of farming as well too, and into the scientific aspects of farming, not necessarily just the hands-on farming procedures.
Okay, sorry.
All right, I'll try to help, and Chris can add. How that worked.
Yeah.
I'd say that in the classes Chris had in middle school or high school, there really weren't any schools in school corporation at the time that had an emphasis on agriculture. I know Green does now, so that might be something to explore. I would say that at the point that Chris was at, in those years of school, we were just really working very hard to integrate him into the community. So there were a lot of volunteer opportunities that he participated in. You volunteered for political candidates. Worked in classrooms over the summer with teachers. So just that was what was available to us. So we tried to have those opportunities with people who were willing to work with us that way, so that at least there was an opportunity, if not in what he really enjoyed, but just to interact and to see what there was in the community to explore. But it probably wasn't until he got to college that the whole idea of agriculture, urban agriculture, farming kind of exploded for him. And it was more things that were random, like your roommate, Gary, took him, has worked on a farm too, started taking him to farmers markets and getting to meet the farmers. And so it was more circumstance that exposed you to some of that, right? And the science part, now I'll let you take it from here, but he learned about a great program that's more geared for college or beyond that Goshen College has called Summer Intensive Agroecology. And that was where a lot of the soil science was taught. It's a wonderful program if there's any in the sustainability minor who want to really dig into farming. It's a great opportunity to learn the science, the hands-on, some of the business. So that's through Goshen College. But that was kind of the spark. But I think with your son being younger, there may be more out there now.
It is, it's still difficult in this community, though we have beginning to become a pretty inclusive community, but there's a lot more growth in this now.
Yeah.
It's also good to see you in your Wolf Scout uniform as well.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Kirby.
Hey, Kirby, go ahead.
Hey, so rhubarb is a great summer crop and you don't really see it very often. Is that something that you ever thought about? It takes about 3 years to actually harvest once it's planted.
That's a great idea. I do like rhubarb. It is a great crop. Do you like it, Kirby?
Yeah, it's compact. It's good in pies.
Yeah.
Pies, jelly.
It's also something that you don't see grown in too many places here, so there could be a good market for it.
It's compact too.
Right, people are saying. So thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone has all sorts of recipes for us and for you now, Kirby. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question for you. Did you call it a triple bottom line? Was that
triple bottom line.
When you're following that model, are there special strains on you as staff to communicate together in triple ways to accomplish? This is more than some businesses are trying to do.
No, I think that's true. That's a good observation because if you didn't have those three concerns, you might just look at the bottom line, which is profitability. But looking at it holistically, you do have to consider kind of take an employee first approach in many ways. And I would say that given that we have a social mission, we also decided that it was maybe more advantageous to us after talking to different people to become a nonprofit business rather than a for-profit business because people in the community said, we'd like to support you. We don't necessarily want to take an investment, but we might want to have a contribution that's tax deductible. So that's a very businessy kind of answer, but looking at it from a business standpoint, that was something we thought through very carefully because some of the business goals could not just be achieved by tacking on a social mission. A social mission really has to be at the forefront. One of the things, I don't want to get too technical here, but one of the things that is interesting about social businesses or socially conscious businesses is that there are a whole stream of new possibilities. Even if something's a for-profit business, they could be what you call a B corporation, a benefit corporation, and then that means that you're putting your social mission first, so you aren't necessarily obliged to have the same returns as you would if you were just a straight nonprofit. So there are more and more ways, I think, that people are looking at this creatively if social mission is at your core. Yeah, it's a good question.
What kind of investment do you need in order to achieve sustainability for your business over the next 10 years?
Well, that's a great question. I do see that what we have to do, whether we're a nonprofit or a for-profit, you have to be concerned about where's your next greenhouse going to come from. So I've already raised what we needed for that one, and now I have to consider the next, you know, and how that it gets expanded. So I think it's always looking ahead. That's very much the business side of things. You know, now I'm taking out the social hat, but just knowing that that's always kind of the next concern as we expand, that have to look at that level of involvement or commitment, or we've done crowdfunding and all other kinds of ways to establish what we need. But it takes time, so you can't just say in 6 months we're going to build the next one. It's that process of germinating and things taking root, and that's just how we have developed, you know.
The fish that you're using, the koi hybrid, I thought part of, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought part of aquaponics was that you also wanted to be able to utilize the fish as a product as well. And I've never
No. We're using them right now in the Hannah and Friends pilot greenhouse because they're great nitrogen producers. In other words, you can figure out what that means. Great nitrogen producers. So they're really a wonderful fish for maintaining a consistent and ever-growing supply of vegetables. So that was how we wanted to start. What we're looking at right now in our new expansion is kind of a mix between koi, because they're such good nitrogen producers, and striped bass, which kind of fits our conditions as well. So that would be an edible fish. But some blending of appropriate species can be done if you have, you know, a particular goal in mind, like fertilizing and having some product. The kind of fish that you raise is sort of a factor of where are you living, what is the demand for a certain kind of fish, and then what kind of temperature can you keep the fish at given your conditions. So those are the things that kind of go into design and thinking about the fish end of the operations. Yeah. Good question.
And also on the whole, just from an economic standpoint, is it cheaper to, rather than just buying fertilizer for the plants? Is it more economically feasible to just feed the fish and maintain the fish than it is to, would be to just fertilizer?
Well, for the type of growing that we're doing, you wouldn't want to just get fertilizer, you know, because we would look at the growth process a little bit differently and say, well, is there any waste we can use? And so, you know, if you break even on the fish and sustain your plant growth, then, you know, economically you're in good shape with aquaponics. But because the fish are fertilizer, so that's kind of a natural process. If we were growing in the ground, as we will, or in our high tunnel, you know, where can we generate some compost? You know, can we partner with a restaurant to compost, or you know, use manure from other sources of different kinds of animals? So to trying to think of what's already there and turn that into something productive rather than, buying. There's a lot of commercial fertilizers you can get, but probably the quality of that input is different or not what we might want compared to the waste resources that there are.
And can you share with us how your and Chris's project has been recognized by various groups and sponsors? I know that you have received some recognition and some awards.
What a setup question.
He's a librarian.
Yes, it is. Yes, to get the research. Well, the first recognition we had was getting the Social Impact Prize at the Notre Dame Business Plan Competition in 2013, which we owe to Ireland because we had a great team of Irish fellows who helped us. So that really kind of helped us launch. Chris got the Indian Arc Entrepreneur of the Year award in 2014. We've been on the Splendid Table NPR program. We were one of the 5 Indiana finalists for the Small Business Administration Women's Competition in November. And we're in a Midwest Business Accelerator for Autism Speaks right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think that's a good place to wrap up with all the accolades and bragging, but they're not running off anytime soon, and I know they want to get pictures. Some of you came to hear them and document their experience, so you too could be in the slideshow in the future. So we'll also be here for questions and answers for a little while. Once again, thank you so much for coming out. We're back here next Wednesday, same time, same place. We are completely changing gears. Well, not completely, still about sustainability and innovation. But we're bringing in Doug White, who has been doing some very quiet and powerful work in sustainability at First Source Bank. So we want to come check that out and see what else is happening in the other worlds